Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Lastly, I'll be looking at the comments and responding for the next 3 hours after this video is released. If you want to chat, but you couldn't get your comment in within that time frame, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'll put that in the description below, or email me. Thanks. All right, everyone. Welcome to Friday after market close on August 6th. We're going to do our daily look at SoFi, and we're also going to do part 2 of the Weird World series, I guess, is what it's looking like it's going to turn out to be. So if you enjoyed part 1, you can look forward to that in the second half of the video after we take a look at the chart and the indicators. And if you might be interested, but you missed part 1, I would recommend going back to there. It's a good starting point versus just kind of jumping in today and trying to pick it up. Now, one thing before we get into this video today, if you haven't signed up for my email list yet, I don't anticipate that there are going to be any issues with the channel down the road, but there have been a couple of weird things that have started to crop up, and it's giving me some pause. So I'm hoping that they can be resolved and that there's no issue. But if you would like another place where we can stay in contact should we need it, that email list will sort of serve that purpose. Not only that, but I'll send you 1 to 2 emails per week, so I won't annihilate your inbox in any way, shape, or form, but it'll be trade ideas, setups, potential plays that I see, that sort of thing, things that you might find interesting as you're doing your own due diligence, of course. So that link will be in the description below. That'll also be the first pinned comment. Depends how quickly you're watching this, if I could get that pinned comment there in time or not. But throw your email into that Google form if you want. I think that the first email is going to be going out either this weekend or next weekend at the latest. So it's pretty prescient at this point. But again, just by way of having another place to stay in contact should we need it, that will sort of be there for us, but I hope it's not an issue. Okay, so SoFi had a great day today, up over 4%, as I'm sure you know. Pretty solid volume. I would like to see another 5 to 7 million coming in on these green days, but we will certainly take it. And let's zoom in and take a look. So here's the daily chart that we've been working off of, and I know if you didn't see this getting pieced together day over day, this could look a little daunting. So let me lay the groundwork. This 1465 zone at the bottom is my bottom demand zone. That's where I think if it falls to 1465, there should be really solid support there. Up from there, you can't see it because the price is very close at this point, but this 1664 zone is the one that I've been saying we really need to get support over 1664. That unlocks a potential run to test the 1791 zone, which I've been kind of lazily shorthanding as $18, but 1791 resistance is there. So that's a really nice stretch. I mean, we're up 4% today with just 65 cents change because the price of the stock is so low. So if we have a run room here of over $1, that's a really great percentage gain, and I think a relatively short period of time, but it's going to have to show on Monday that it can sustain its support above that 1664 level. That's super important. Now, the other areas that we've been looking at, this purple bounce zone, we're looking at this because every time it's come down to this zone, which is about 1497, down to almost at 1465, it's bounced out. And then this red zone, which had shown itself to be pretty volatile and challenging, whereby if it lost support there, it fell through pretty rapidly. That's around the 1574, 1572 zone. And then what's come to be most important, this purple uptrend line, we've been tracking this as uptrend support, and that held really nicely today. And this continues to break through this topping out trend line. So this, if this became a thing of the past, it would be fantastic. This is green because my thinking was we have our best opportunity to really get some good money plays going in our favor if we can breach that level. So that's playing out at the moment. And this white box was one that we were looking at previously from a bunch of topping out that had been done. You see the wicks stretching in there and the body in here, and it was having a hard time holding and establishing above that. So if we can continue to move in the direction that we're going on Monday, I would love to see us obviously develop support over that 1664 level, but at least stop reaching into this white zone. I think we need to leave this white zone behind. It's one of those areas, CCIV has had one, Palantir has had one, where the stock just likes to return to a particular price zone time and time again, and it's just very frustrating and definitely tests everyone's patience. So leaving that behind would be fantastic, but really great movement so far, and I'm glad to see these levels and the areas on the chart that we've been watching play out in a really strong way. Now in the MACD, this was the first tip-off that we had that, I was saying we have our best chance for an extended bull run, and that was when we saw the bullish crossover here and the first initiation of a green histogram area, and we see continuing to increase the real estate between the signal line and the MACD, still sitting well underneath the baseline. And I say that because to me that means there is a ton of upside potential here. If we were to stretch up and challenge this previous topping out here, I would suspect that we are establishing over that 1791 if we can get up that high in the MACD. So time will tell, but this could be setting up quite nicely for a run up to earnings that are happening next Thursday, I believe is the date, and that would give us Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to really kick things into high gear. Now, whether or not that means that even if earnings are great, that there's some pushback and some selling off because of that, if a lot of the price feels pre-factored in, then, so be it. But in the meantime, it would be nice to string together some price strength and just get things going in a different direction. Now the RSI, this is the one that I've been harping on a lot since we saw the MACD crossover. I said the next big challenge is what it's going to do with this midline. So today it poked through the midline and continued to show strength, making higher highs along the way and higher lows along the way as well, basically putting itself in a bullish pattern here as well, which is what we're going to want to see. So it can't struggle at this midline and get pushed down, because that's the real danger point. What we want to see, in my opinion, is this running up into overbought territory and then probably taking a little breath, which is fine. You can't expect every day to be a green day. You'll just make yourself nuts with that. And so if it can come down from there and test the midline again and then bounce up into overbought again, that's where we'll see just phenomenal growth in the price action, I think. On the MA, been talking about the 20 being the most important to come in, swoop in, and provide support. Now, I know this gets a little challenging because it's intersecting with this red box, but you can just know that it's right here. You can see where it is over here, 1573, and so it's well underneath the 1671 price action that's occurring right now. So that will supply additional support, and it'll be good to see that MA start to curl up and move toward the 50. That's our next big bullish crossover, is the MA20 crossing over the 50 and providing an additional lift. I know that we've done this in the last few videos, but it'll just take a second in case folks need a reminder or if they've missed it. But basically, every time that we've had one of these really nice run-ups, you see this one here, you see this one here, that's what's happened. The 20 has come in and provided support for that entire run. And then once the 50 established, because there wasn't 50 trading days before this, so once the 50 came in, and that was also playing a factor here, you see the price action on the 18th of May, candlestick develops above the 20 MA, and then that lifts it above. You get that crossover, which is what I'm going to be looking for in the coming days with SoFi right now, and that gave it this huge lift up again. So this is the way to huge lift, in my opinion, is get support of the 20 underneath the current price action and then move in and cross over that 50. That historically has shown to give us really strong bullish activity. Now, what happens after that run occurs has always been a little bit sad, but let's even try to get there and worry about it then. And we'll, of course, unpack as much as we can from the chart and the indicator at that point, once it starts to seem like we do get a bit extended upward. Let's just hope that we can effectuate this turn of events in the meantime. Okay, so I think that's it for the chart and for the indicators. Everything's still looking really bullish to me. So let's flip over to part 2 of the weird world. Again, I would recommend hopping back to the videos and looking for part 1. I don't think that one on the title said part 1. I think it just said something, it had basically the same thing, but didn't have part 1 because I didn't know it was going to be multi-part. Maybe it did, I can't remember. But anyway, it's just a few videos ago. You can find it. I think it was Wednesday. All right, let's hop in. So Gemini Ruiner, we're going to do just a couple of recaps because it'll tie in, and then we're going to go into all new stuff. So remember in that video we talked about this person posting on 7/27, SoFi is partnering with Gemini, which is the crypto platform. Announcement is coming in a few weeks, yada, yada, yada. So that was on July 27th. Pretty close to that, on July 26th, this influencer, who is a crypto influencer, who has a partnership with them, he is putting out this cryptic tweet. Okay, so these things seem to align really strongly with each other. At the same time, a Redditor finds this on filing with the Federal Reserve regarding the regarding the bank that SoFi is looking to purchase, and they noticed this Gemini merger sub in there, and the question becomes, okay, so there's a lot of things stringing together here. This person's claiming Gemini, though, like random people on the internet claiming things like it's a tale as old as time, right? But then this cryptic influencer who has a partnership is, I would think, being paid through SoFi to influence, or by SoFi to influence, is putting out this kind of a tweet just a day before the other person's thing, and then this appears. So, and again, this influencer is in the crypto space, very heavily in the crypto space. So those things all seem to make sense. And then the person who had sent me this email, because this person apparently gets responses from investor relations, whereas I do not, but he had asked about the, occurrence of this Gemini merger sub. What is it? We got a reply from the Vice President, Associate General Counsel at SoFi saying Gemini is a merger subsidiary, which is a very sad response to get. Luckily, that person persisted and asked, is this a wholly owned subsidiary? So, really good sort of pressure being put on here, right? It's just like the dogged kind of mentality that you have to have if you're going to get anything done or answered. So I was sent this email from that person, basically says got a response, see below, about it being wholly owned by SoFi. So that pretty much clears up everything, I guess. Wholly owned merger subsidiary of SoFi's just a coincidence that it's named Gemini. So talk about of all the unfortunate things to, pick a name out of a hat and this is what you get. But interesting that she asks where my own curiosity comes from, though. So Deanna apparently said, why are you curious about this? And so this was, I blacked this out because I don't know if this person wants this info. This last paragraph had some personal info, so I just ditched it. But Deanna here saying, yes, that's correct about the wholly owned, I assume. Can I ask where your curiosity in the merger subsidiary stems from? So not sure why they are curious, of why people are curious, but this person lays out just sort of the research that they were doing and what they had found, and just kind of, some things that seem to be coming together that would point somebody to believe that it could be the crypto platform, but now it seems as though if it's a wholly owned subsidiary, probably not the crypto platform. Okay, moving on. Now, the big question that I have in the weird world of SoFi at the moment is, where in the world are the institutions? Now, let me preface this whole section by saying, folks that are going to jump in and say they're waiting for earnings to come out and they don't want to jump in, apologies if you hear screaming baby in the background at the moment. That could totally be true. Now, whether that's true dramatically, consistently across the board, I don't know. Obviously, shares have been pretty extensively discounted given the sell-off that has been endured since this time period. So if they are waiting for earnings, that could certainly be the case, but let's dig a little bit deeper and ask some more questions. So this site provides a little under 2% institutional ownership, 48 million bought in Q3 of 2021 so far. And is this the first of many bigger buys ahead is my question. And what I'm pointing to here is this Liberty Street Advisors percent of their portfolio, I guess, 23.7%. And they have gobbled up, as of the reporting date on August 5th, 741,920 shares for a market value of 14.22 million, getting nearly 0.1% of the company. And the shares available and the float are very, very high at this point because of the recent merger. So that's quite a significant stake, especially if they are relatively small. Oops. And it consumes this much of their portfolio. That's quite crazy. But this is what Liberty Street is apparently. This is from their site. Liberty Street Funds, it appeared, I mean, when I Googled Liberty Street Advisors, it seemed as though it was the same thing. If you find something different, feel free to pop it in the comments. As I'm collecting info and trying to piece it together, I could, of course, always stumble. So I appreciate anyone who wants to clarify anything in the comments. But there is, as there always is, some variance in information that's out there. So I think this is from the NASDAQ site. They're showing 2.28% institutional ownership and this many increased, this many decreased positions, new and sold out positions. So you see a bunch of sold out shares, right? Over 34 million sold out shares. And here you see from another source, these two are from the same source, institutional share purchases with the current quarter, previous quarter, and sold. So you see a huge jump up here, almost 37 million shares sold, and net institutional shares purchased, just major negative, right? And they have here percentage of shares held by institutions. They have 3.09%, which is 4.16% of the float, because the float is less than the total shares. So same number of shares that they're holding, but the percentage is slightly different. But regardless, I guess it's somewhere between just under 2 and 4, something like that. So a little bit of a question, but regardless, I think of, whether it's 2 or 4, it still is an incredibly small number. And I have some questions as to why. Does it have anything to do with this? There's still this ongoing lawsuit. I think it's still ongoing. I couldn't find anything more recent. Now, granted, I'm piecing all this stuff together and I'm trying to do it best I can, but I also have to keep moving because I need to string it together and put out the video. So if somebody has more up-to-date info, please put it in the comments again. But I could find stuff from May, and I couldn't find anything from like June, July, or August yet. But it appears that this lawsuit is still ongoing. Renren, if you're unfamiliar with this, you can just Google, you can get all the info. But this says it's still ongoing. The lawsuit centers around a group of shareholders, including activist Oasis Management, who sued Renren to recover a stake alleging gross foul play in the deal. Oasis filed a lawsuit against Renren, its founder, CEO Joseph Chen, and others, claiming that the defendants stripped Renren of its SoFi stake and other valuable investments at far below market prices. And then this was like a paid-for article thing, but I still tossed it in here just because before it fades out, you can kind of see company executives and their financial advisor that claims shareholders were cheated out of $500 million can move forward in New York, blah, 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 blah. So does this outstanding lawsuit have anything to do with that? I don't know. There were some additional allegations that came out as it pertained to SoFi in some of this, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but these are the questions that we're asking because SoFi is in a weird, weird world at the moment. Or does it have anything to do with this? That IPOE, before the merger happened, was incredibly highly shorted. If you go back and look at any of my videos pre-merger, we're talking about short squeeze potential, we're talking about just insane percentages of short interest as a percentage of the float. And here you see a couple of things pointing to that. And this is what it looks like. So on Ortex, if you plot the exchange reported short interest in blue, the estimated short interest that Ortex organically does, you see here, this is February, March, April, and May, okay? And so just before we were coming on board, this short interest shot up just as it was peaking price-wise here, I guess toward the beginning of February, maybe end of January. And that interest, even though the stock price got driven down so much in that time frame, down here, I have 1414 stuck in my mind. I don't know because this doesn't show me exactly, but it could have been lower than that. 1414 might have been closer to the merger date. But anyway, that short interest just continued to rise. And even when the price just struggled and struggled and struggled, they just held strong and they just kept shorting the stock. So, does it have anything to do with that? What about the rise and fall of the stock price? Now, in the last video, we talked briefly, I think just a slide on the FTDs, but let's take a look here. I have this circled over here. What I'm mostly looking at is this big hump here, but I expanded the circle because I wanted to show May 13th, 2021. So these are over 12 million fails to deliver. Shares that were purchased that then were not, 1,264,264, okay, sorry, 1.2 million. I'm thinking of the next slide, sorry. 1.2 million that just sort of like persists, right, for several days. And then we correspond that with about a month later. So that's late April. Oh, sorry, that's mid-May. This circle, I knew that this circle would screw me up when I was putting it here, but I wanted to encompass that. But those are happening in mid-May, okay? And then we see here, 16th of June, 2021, so mid-June, we see SoFi with a bit of a run-up there, and then a big crash down. And then toward the end of June, another sort of like really impulsive, oddly timed, as it pertains to the lockup anyway, oddly timed run-up. So, could it be because of that? What about this one from late June? This is the one that we had in the last video. This spike here, this is one that I was thinking of. This is nearly 10 million. Okay, and these accumulate. So that's not 10 million in a day, but this is accumulated over this period of time where it's just growing and growing and growing, and then it peaks out. And that happens toward the very end of June. Now, what do we see about a month later, at the very end of July, beginning of August? You see this run up that then just very quickly gets completely shoved back down, lower than it was before the run up started. And then we see this huge gap up, and then kind of settles back down. And then we see this next big run up. Could this have something to do with it? Could this have any impact into why institutions are not coming in very strong for SoFi at all? That is the question I have at the moment. Now, additionally, here are my outstanding questions to investor relations. Has SoFi been approached at any time since the SPAC process, IPO, of being acquired by another company? Do you think that the current situation with Renren is, keeping institutions out? Those two were provided by the same person who had the correspondence with Deanna. Okay, so I don't want to take credit for those. That person provided those. Please confirm that there is an unlock that will happen after earnings and the amount of shares that will unlock. That's from me. Please provide the current public float of SoFi. That was raised by Josh in the comments. Sorry, I'm blanking on the last name. Something like Galt, or sorry if I botched that, Josh, but you'll see Josh in the comments quite frequently. He has really good ideas and info, but he posed that question, and so I wanted to share it with investor relations, of course. What lockup periods remain, dates and triggers, and what amount of locked shares could each milestone unlock? How many shares by number or percent have been unlocked to date? That last one could do some relatively easy work and figure it out, I think. but in a principled way, I would like to hear it from investor relations. So these are now the 6 questions that I have out to them, none of which have been answered yet. We'll see what happens. There's a phone call that's being put to Deanna today. We'll see if that yields anything, since my emails have not. You can see that in the last video. But that's where we'll pick things up in part 3. Now I know I just raised a bunch of questions, not just these questions, but I raised a bunch of questions about this, right? Does it have anything to do with this lawsuit? How about the fact that it was so heavily shorted, leading to the merger? How about the fact that these FTDs are spiking about a month, maybe 5 weeks before some big sort of unexplained run-ups in SoFi that then just very quickly get squashed? Could that have anything to do with it? Those questions about the FTDs, the lawsuit, well, maybe not the lawsuit, but at least the shorting of IPOE, the heavy shorting of IPOE, the FTDs, and corresponding run-ups, and these 6 questions will be the focus of part 3. I don't know that I'll have any answers from these 6 questions, but we will definitely dive much deeper into if shorting of IPOE to such a heavy extent is keeping institutions out, if this FTD situation has anything to do with it, and then if we do happen, by the luck of whatever, to get responses to any of these questions, I will certainly share those as well. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you had an enjoyable week. My guess is you ended up having a pretty solid week. Look at the last 5 days here. That's not a bad week in the vast scheme of things, knowing what you all have been through, the pain endured, the fights that have been fought. Enjoy it. Don't get overly exuberant. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. Still be very cautious and put the work in and make good decisions. We'll see what next week brings. It should be interesting with earnings. All right, enjoy the weekend. I really appreciate you watching. Sign up for that email list. We might need it someday. And in the meantime, if we don't need it, I'll at least be sending you some additional thoughts and ideas. All right, I will see you in the next video.